The former police officer Joao Rodrigues will now stand trial for the murder of anti-apartheid activist Ahmed Timol almost 5 decades ago. The High Court in Johannesburg made the ruling today. It paves the way for other apartheid-era crimes to be reinvestigated. An inquest back in 1972 had found that Timol committed suicide. That ruling was overturned just 2 years ago. A new inquest found Timol's death to be premeditated murder.
The application is dismissed.
That's how 80-year-old Joao Rodrigues' bid to evade trial ended.
No order is made as to costs.
Rodrigues had applied to the court for a stay of prosecution. His defense cited his age and the time that had lapsed since the crime.
The refusal of a permanent stay of prosecution is not signaling that we are required to be vengeful to those who are alleged to have committed serious crimes in the past, but rather an affirmation that the principles of accountability and responsibility for the breaching of the rules of society stand at the doorway of our new constitutional order.
And that's what Timol's family has been arguing for 25 years. His late mother pleaded with the TRC for answers in 1996.
I told them that I do not believe that my son had committed suicide.
At the time of the murder, Rodrigues was with Timol in room 1026. He maintained that Timol had jumped to his death. But a new inquest in 2017 overturned the suicide verdict. It fingered Rodrigues in the murder.
My mother wanted to know the truth. What happened to my son? We still don't have the truth. So, in a way, we have a victory that someone is responsible for his death.
The Timol matter is in many ways a test case on how to handle apartheid-era crimes. The TRC had made provision for amnesty on condition that perpetrators make a full disclosure. But there has been little or no action against those who refused to testify and reveal their part in atrocities.
It's been a 16-year battle to get the first inquest reopened. So this judgment really is a victory, as the judge put it, for justice and accountability for victims.
The pressure has been mounting on the NPA to reopen other apartheid-era cases. Rodrigues still has an option to appeal the judgment. Maageketla Mohlabe, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Well, Maageketla Mohlabe, as you know, spending his day in that court. He's with me now. Maageketla, good evening to you. All right, 3 judges hearing this case. Why did they reject this application by the police officer, Joao Rodrigues?
Well, you'd recall that Joao Rodrigues basically wanted to be rescued from this trial based on his age, and he says that because of his age he's got memory loss. On the other side, he said that this is because of the time that has lapsed since this murder took place in 1971. And of course, Judge Cien Mushidi coming through today to give that particular judgment, and he said that this particular arguments should only be considered during sentencing, not during pre-trial hearings. So clearly, obviously, it actually brought some excitement and jubilation to the family of Timol, who have actually long fighting this particular case to be in court, and for Rodrigues himself to stand trial. So it's quite interesting in the sense that many TRC commissioners mentioning the fact that this really cracked open more cases to actually come forth. And of course, I guess the pressure, as I mentioned in the package, is for the NPA to process the opening of these cases.
Well, I mean, Nokuthula Simelane is one, of course, Neil Aggett's another. It'll be interesting to see what happens. There are 2 elements here, as far as I can see it. The family wants at least 2 things. I mean, they probably owed a lot more than that, but they want at least 2 things. They want to know what actually happened. They want the truth, and then they want justice. It seems they actually want the truth almost more in a way. I mean, what are they asking Rodrigues to do?
I mean, you'd recall during the reopened inquest in 2017, I mean, they did mention that they only wanted to know the truth, and only if Rodrigues would actually come out during that inquest, then they would not take any further steps. But here we are. The reason why you see this particular case drag is because they didn't find what they wanted. They said that they would actually then pursue retribution in this particular case until they get the truth as to what happened to their loved one. And of course, they kept on mentioning more other cases, as you mentioned, Nokuthula Similan's case as well, Mabelan's case as well. They kept on mentioning those cases to say that really these families need to know the truth as to what happened to their loved one. And of course, this in an effort to get closure in the long process.
So it's really now up to the National Prosecuting Authority, right? What do they need to do?
Well, obviously, what we heard from the NPA, and of course, this is Gauteng NPA, they said that they are doing their best to actually pursue these cases. They did mention Nokuthula Similan's case, and I have to mention again that they are doing their best to actually have these cases see the light of prosecution in court. And of course, they did welcome this particular judgment, to say that it's a hard-fought for judgment that they'd been expecting to see, more especially because you'd recall that Timol's family, more especially the nephew, Imtiaz Kaji, has been chasing this case since 2003, and 16 years later or so, we are here today, judgment, and of course he says that he hopes that Rodrigues will come out with the truth of what really happened to Ahmed Timol in 1971.
I mean, the speed of this, I should really use the word, the slowness of this. I mean, it was, I think you were in the courtroom in 2017, weren't you, when that inquest ruling was handed down. We're now in May 2019, and we still haven't started a trial.
Absolutely. And of course, if I can just take you back to that inquest, I mean, Rodrigues kept on saying that he did not spot any injuries on Ahmed Timol. Remember, he admitted to be the last person to see Ahmed Timol alive in room 1026 of the then John Foster Square police station. And what he says is that he only saw Ahmed Timol take a dive through that window, and at that point he could not manage to save him. So the medical evidence witnesses that actually produced more in that particular inquest is that the injuries that are seen on those pictures are not consistent with a fall from the height, and which is why we are here today.
Maageketla, thank you very much indeed. Maageketla Mohlabe on that story for you today. I'm sure there'll be developments in coming months.